Welcome back to the Pool Pro podcast. On today's episode, CEO and founder of Sutro, Ravi Kurani, and Jim Conti talk about the Sutro technology. You're not going to want to miss this because you can actually get wholesale pricing by signing up as a partner on their website. The podcast starts now. We're very excited. Dave's a big advocate for this particular company. So we're so excited to have Ravi Kurani, who's the founder of Sutro. We also have Jim Conti, who does sales for Sutro. And we are so excited to have you on the podcast episode this morning. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
You bet.
So Ravi, it seems like we have a new tool in the service industry to help us out with our water testing and verification. I'll let you start out by telling us a little bit about the product itself and the history of it and the thought behind it, if you would.
Sure. Yeah, I would be more than happy to. So my name is Ravi Kurani. For those of you that can't see the YouTube recording, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Sutro. And just a little bit of history. I grew up in sunny Southern California. My dad used to have a chain of pool and spa supply stores. And so One thing I do like to start off with is I am from the industry. I've run routes. My dad had a store in Huntington Beach that I actually personally used to manage during the summers between high school and actually college. Went to UC Riverside as well, so was local from the area. And after doing all of the bits and pieces, testing people's water as they came into the pool store, installing pumps, doing acid washes, running routes, it really hit me that the crux of water management all starts with the water chemistry, right? That's always the first sentence, that's the opening paragraph of how you begin the story of how you're managing your pool, what you're doing. And so the idea kind of hit me of how do I take my dad's pool store, take the pool route and kind of package it and shrink it inside of a box that basically is what Sutro is. And so that's kind of where we first came up with the idea of how to build Sutro. So what is Sutro? It's this thing right over here. This little robot, actually is what I call it, floats inside of the water. This thing connects with a hub base station that's inside of your home. And there's an application in which you can have either on iPhone or on Android, your chemistry measurements.
Wow.
How this kind of works, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on the technology because I think it's important to actually state how we're different.
Yes, I agree.
Inside of this robot, this was actually, by the way, inspired from the flux capacitor. So if you guys are Back to the Future fans, this is why it opens up like this. Is this cartridge, and this is the brains of what's inside of the actual Sutro device. And inside of here is basically 5 reagents. You can see those 5 holes that are over there. Those are 5 syringes of phenol red, 2 DPD reagents, and 2 alkalinity reagents, which give you the 3 tests: pH, free chlorine, and alkalinity. How these tests are actually done is through true reagent chemistry, right? One thing I learned in being at my dad's pool store is the ePool had just launched at that point in time. And the ePool uses an ORP sensor, right, which outputs millivolts. And what ended up happening at the store from a consumer side is people would come in and they'd say, oh, I have a 650 millivolt on my ePool reading. What's my ppm? How does the ppm relate to 650 millivolts? And so it became this big apples to oranges questions. And I said, I have to go back to the basics. We have to use reagent chemistry. We have to use phenol red. We have to use DPD so we can get true parts per million of chlorine. And that resulted in this technology that we call the microfluidic chip. So for those of you that are not in YouTube land, what I'm showing over here is a really, really small piece of acrylic that actually has really, really small flow cells. And so what we've done is we basically take 1/50 drops of water to actually run reagent-based colorimetry chemistry inside here. So we do the exact same thing that's happening in your Lamont Spin Touch, in your Taylor test kit. In fact, Lamont is actually one of our reagent partners. And nice. So that's the kind of that's the crux of the technology. That's kind of how it works.
And when was this launched, Ravi? How long has this been in the market?
So I actually started the company about 6 years ago. We
Okay.
had about 4 years of R&D because building microfluidic chip technology that's taken from the medical industry is it's no small joke.
Right.
And so we launched in May of 2020, right in the heart of the pandemic. So
Wow.
that was fun as well.
Yes. Well, it was actually probably a good time to launch, just in the fact that, the market really, having the trajectory that it's had since the pandemic began was probably a good time to launch. Uh,
Definitely.
yeah, absolutely. Dave, have you used the product before?
I have. I had it in my pool for quite a while.
Oh, wow.
And it sends you notifications that the pool needs treatment. Where I was kind of thinking about this, and I really saw the value is somebody who's servicing pools once a week and adding their chemicals by hand. There's some things that our test kits don't tell us. Number one is when you come to a cloudy or a green pool, is just how much of a negative demand there is that we have to overcome before we can start building a residual again. While this may not tell us that, it will tell us when the pool ran out of chlorine. It will tell us, did it happen gradually? Did it happen
Oh, wow.
Did they throw a big pool party? I'm correct here, right, Ravi?
No, you're actually completely correct.
That's a lot of valuable information for somebody
That's very valuable.
cool.
Yes.
And it would possibly give you the ability to prepare for, rather than just be surprised by a green or a cloudy pool. If you know that the pool ran out of chlorine 2 days ago, then you know you've got some shocking and some work to do when you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think you actually hit the nail on the head, David. Everything that I just said is kind of a one-to-one relationship, right? How we deal with one user and one customer. But if you kind of zoom that up 50,000 feet, what we actually have is an application called Sutro Pro, both on the App Store, on iOS, and on Android. What that allows you to do as a service technician is you can actually deploy Sutros. Let's say you have 100 pools in your route. I run Ravi's pool route. I can take 100 Sutros and deploy them at my 100 customers' homes. And it's very easy. You just scan the back of the hub that we have, and there's a QR code that's kind of listed on there that you can actually scan. And once you scan those, all of those devices are put in an entire dashboard
Wow.
on the Sutro Pro application. So now, instead of you consistently being reactive, the homeowner had a party on a Sunday and then you showed up on a Wednesday to a green pool, you can kind of resurface and reshuffle your route based on what you should prioritize, right? And so the big part of why we built that side of it is so we can allow pool service technicians to be proactive versus reactive. And so, yeah, Dave, you actually hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what the future of this technology holds and what we are building today.
So the other thing about that is it gives you a chance to build a relationship with your homeowner.
Yes.
I mean, when I was most of my pools now are either chemically automated or run on ozone. But when I was doing pools once a week by hand, I would always, if I knew the customer was swimming a lot, I always left them a gallon of chlorine or two and told them to put it in between visits, and they never did. But this actually gives you the opportunity to see, hey, that pool ran out of chlorine. I can call my customer, say, put that chlorine in that I left. And so it's an opportunity to show the customer that you're really on top of things and
Yeah.
build a relationship with them and help them be involved in keeping their pool nice.
Yep. And I think, I'm gonna steal this from Jim. He says it really well. But there is this distinction between a moment in time and something that happens over time, right? The Sutro is continuously measuring 3 times a day, your pH, your free chlorine, and your alkalinity. And, there's a difference, as we all know. If you start running that pump and if that waterfall is on, you're going to get aeration and change your pH, right? If it's been a really hot day and that UV load attacks your chlorine, you can see that really, really quickly dip over time. And so what's happening yesterday is we were just seeing snapshots in time. When you went out to the pool, as you got to it, what you have the ability to do now is actually see things, over time. And that sort of analytics and that data really gives us and the pool service technician power to be able to, have better agency and actually come out to their customers and help them better, like you just said.
I love that. That's fantastic.
So do you feel like the Pool Pro should test the water every time anyway and compare it against the Sutro? Or does this completely replace the need to test the water?
So it doesn't completely replace the need to test. And the reason that I say that for all of the chemical geeks out there is because the Sutro only measures 3 parameters, right? pH, free chlorine, alkalinity. It measures the heartbeat of your pool, but you still need that deep dive if you're a pool pro to measure your total chlorine, your cyanuric acid, your calcium hardness. Now, maybe you may not need to do it weekly, and you can kind of manage using the data, and maybe every 2 weeks you can do kind of, run a spin touch test or run a more detailed Taylor drop test, whatever that might be. But the way that I like to explain it is the Sutro is your Fitbit, right? If you have a Fitbit on your wrist, the Fitbit doesn't replace your doctor. It tells you how to live a healthier life. It tells you you've been sitting in front of your computer for too long. It tells you to go out on a walk. But to get that blood pressure test, to make sure that you're actually getting your blood pulled, that happens at the doctor's office. And so your pool pro is the doctor. He or she still comes out there. They still need to do that more detailed test. But the Sutro is the Fitbit or your smoke alarm for your swimming pool. And so that's kind of how I like to distinguish both of those testings.
So I think that's going to change a little bit of the pool pros mentality. A lot of us kind of think the less information the customer has, the better, and just keep their head out of the game and let us manage it. But actually, you can get a really good result by building that relationship with the customer and having them on board on the team, and to see them just like you described. This device doesn't replace the need for you. It just gives you a basis to build a team with the customer.
Exactly, and I think what you're alluding to is trust, right? The whole industry is built on trust. And the biggest issue that pool pros have with their end users, and I remember this from growing up, is if that pool turns green, there's just this big valley of lack of knowledge, right? The homeowner doesn't know what you're doing to the pool. They're busy with their day job. They come home and their pool's green. And who's the one to blame is you, right? And so what you've done is you've just lost trust. And so I think part of what Sutro is trying to do with that fishing line between the service pro and the homeowner is help strengthen that bond of trust so that you don't have these finger pointing events of, hey, you did this and you did that. This hopefully gives them the ability to have that conversation with their end user, with their customer.
Yeah.
To tell them that, look, I have been doing this stuff. It does work. Your pool is blue. I'm staying on top of it because I can actually see your pool when you're busy at work, so you come home to a blue pool. And that's the narrative that the pool pro wants.
And Dave, that also translates into value, right? Pool pros are constantly being taken out for $5. I'm going to come around with a guy in a pickup truck and knock me out for $5 differences. And
right.
That you have technology implemented into your system, you can offer a level of service that nobody else can offer. Imagine being able to tell your customer that I will guarantee you your pool will never turn green because I can see it 24/7 now, versus waiting until I'm here next Wednesday. And within 6 days, a lot can go on in that pool, but especially in markets that change with Florida and Texas, where weather can move it overnight. And by adding this level of service, we actually augment the service level to a whole new level of performance to say, I can now add more pools to my route because I can be more efficient. I can send out a junior technician because Sutro will tell them exactly what to put in and what to have on their truck before they get there, and send my senior guys out to do the pool repairs and the other things that are much better margins and less, more tying yourself to that customer when they really need you to be there to fix their pumps and things like that. But you can actually share the chemical data with them and show them that their pool is in good shape. And that's really that level of trust, but it translates into value where you can sell that service for more and be very resistant to somebody coming along, knocking on the door and taking, a discount at your service.
Right.
And the fact that it measures total alkalinity, I think, is a big deal because there's still way too many pool pros that only measure chlorine and pH. They're not really scientific in the way they manage their pools. So to have this is just one more step towards being able to calculate the LSI every week. Your calcium hardness, and it reads temperature as well, right?
Correct.
You have all the that you need except calcium hardness, which you only need to measure rather infrequently because it doesn't change that rapidly. So you've got a huge leg up on having the actual complete Langlair reading on your pool every week, which is it's a big deal in today's market where customers are pointing fingers at pool pros and really we're under the gun from all kinds of different angles, from builders, from plasterers, from customers. If there's scale on the pool or etching in the pool or scale on the tile, the first thing that everybody's going to do is blame our water chemistry. So to have a record of what our water chemistry has been and what we've done, as long as we've been on top of it, this is a huge deal. I see a real value for this in new pool startups.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we have quite a bit of adoption out of the National Plasters Council. We're working with those types of the major providers, the guys that provide the pool finish, working with them as well. So a lot of the guys that shoot gunite are actually saying, hey, this is a great tool for us, because again, they had to drive out there and run those tests, go into the yard to take those water tests, versus now we had a guy tell us, last week we saved him 4 hours of drive time a day because he doesn't have to do it every day now. At least he can go every other day or in some other event, but he has the ability to see that chemistry without driving out there.
It doesn't eliminate the need for you to stay on top of it and keep your chemistry right, but it gives the ability to know if you need to get out there right away and do something. And it also gives you the ability to verify that, yes, my water chemistry is not the problem here. It's what's elsewhere.
Right.
And one other thing Robbie didn't mention, he talked about the technology. If you see the size of Sutro, it's actually that way for a reason. It takes a test every time at 14 inches. It's below that UV depth, and it does it every time. And we did a funny survey when we asked how many techs actually took it at 18, which is I think that's the number, right, Dave? It's 18. And heads down we got. It was guys that said, oh, do you take it at 18? And no. Well, what do you take it? There's an inconsistency there as well. They take it off the top, they take it 15, 12, 11, right? All those inconsistencies play in versus 3 times a day, 14 inches. And it takes different parts of the pool because it floats and takes up different readings. So you see that ability to average out, not just that one-time shot that they took. So everything that Sutro has done was done for a reason.
So,
And can I ask a question, Dave? Did you say, and maybe you said this, Robbie, and I missed it, is the app web-based, so somebody can be sitting at a computer back at the office monitoring all the different Sutros you have out there, or is it an app that you download on your phone and only one person can see it, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, part of the entire methodology of how we built Sutro is to be mobile first and cloud first.
Okay.
And what that basically means is mobile first allows you to have the flexibility to kind of share your data on a mobile phone or on a desktop computer if you're sitting inside your office. And so the goal is basically, if you get everything into the cloud and you have one point of truth at which you can basically take all that information, you can then resurface, regurgitate it, re-massage it down to different ways that you can actually use it, right? And for example, Alexa and kind of Google Home give us the ability to interface with data through our voice. Applications like the iPhone or Samsung allow them to see it on an actual mobile device. The Apple computer or a HP computer allows you to see it on a desktop. And so at any point in time, we don't view data as things that should be fixed in particular locations. We view it as something that's sitting up in the cloud to be able to disperse and distribute that information down through any way that people want to be able to see it.
Access it. Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. And I want to take actually kind of a quick step back to what Dave was saying about the LSI. Tying back to having a pool service pro that goes out there and runs the full gamut of tests, right? Gets the calcium hardness, gets the calcium index, the TDS index, with the temperature, the pH, and the alkalinity. The two things that we're really missing out on is the calcium and the TDS. And if the pool pro in the future gives us that information, we can, in quote unquote real time, actually begin to calculate that LSI index. And so it is something that we do have on our product roadmap. It's not live today, But we were actually talking to Harold from Orenda, and he's obviously, as you know, a big LSI guy. And so we wanted to make sure that, we look at this thing the right way and we can give people the right information in terms of the Langlier saturation index. So yeah, I did want to point on that as well.
And their app has kind of become the standard for pool pros that measure their LSI every week. I use it all the time. There's no simpler way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And imagine if you could plug in the Sutro data into there, if we could kind of manipulate and manage that data to give you the LSI in real time. Now you basically have the power of Orenda LSI in the Sutro application, or vice versa.
That'd be great.
Yeah, which was previously not available because you had to run with millivolts. If you use an ORP sensor, you had nothing to translate into that LSI. You had to literally, you could not use an ORP sensor to help you in that calculation. So now the technology allows you to plug in all those data parameters because it's mirroring your tailors and your spin touches. It's the same methodology to get those results.
Well, I have actually only one pool that I manage by hand once a week, and it's getting a Sutro this week. So we'll have updates for you on how well it's going, and I'll be working with Ravi and Jim to make sure we get the most out of this. I have an actively involved homeowner. They don't mind dumping a little chlorine in, but I'm kind of excited to see how it works, and I think it shows real promise for, like I said, most of my pools have either chemical automation or a combination of that and ozone, and so they're kind of covered, but not every pool owner has thousands and thousands of dollars to invest in that kind of hardware. So for just the average backyard pool, this is a way to bring them into the and the level of their water quality up to where I think every homeowner deserves to have it.
Right.
Yes.
And one point, Dave, I want to make is that not all of your customers will take on your chemistry route. They might just use you for repairs. They might just keep you in the back burner if they need you. Right. One thing that Sutro gives the service professional now is the ability to sell this to them or say, look, it's okay if you want to take care of your own water chemistry. That's great. I have a tool that you could use to manage your own water chemistry. I will too keep an eye. No charge. I'll just keep you on my dashboard. If you have any questions, I will see your water chemistry like you will, and I can help you walk through it. And water chemistry is not easy. People take it on, they think it's simple, dump some chlorine in and you're good. This is such a process, as you know. And to give them a tool builds that trust to say, you know what, he just sold, you can sell it, you can give it, it's up to you how you want to run the business. But imagine if now that, to Robbie's world, the fishing line to that customer is when they need you, you're already connected. So you might have 2,500 pools in your route, but another 4,000 that you could be looking for repairs, whatever the numbers are. You have a line to those guys in the seasons when they don't need you or they don't think they need you, but you're connected to them so that somebody driving by doesn't take your business for less, for less money, et cetera. So just another way to use technology that even if they don't take you on for chemical, you have a way to work with them until they do need you.
Great. I see this.
I love that.
Yeah. There's a lot of potential for this as a tool for the industry and for the homeowner. And I'm looking forward to getting my hands wet with it. And,
yeah. And I like to, say this both to you, Dave, and also to all the listeners. We view technology as a conversation, as a two-way street. We don't ever have the right answer to the way that we're deploying what we're deploying. And so what I do employ you and the rest of the listeners out there to do is send us feedback, right? If you see something that is off, if you want something built a particular way, technology only improves when we get the feedback from you and all of your listeners that are using our technology. And so we don't want this ever to be a kind of one and done. Hey, Sutro knows the answer. We're going to sell you the technology, take it or leave it. It's more like test it, see how it works, work with us to help you and us make a better product, because that's the only way that we both succeed. And so, yeah.
Makes sense.
The final question that I have is, how do you get one? where do
That's what I was going to ask.
Why do going to be available at distribution? Is it how do we find you, and how do we start buying these?
Yeah, so right now you can, as of this podcast on August 17th, 2021, you can email jim@mysutro.com, or you can email support@mysutro.com if you're interested, and we'll basically reroute it. Jim is our head of sales. And so anybody out there in the Pool Pro world, in the startup world, in the pool store world, reach out to Jim. Jim will be able to handle you. If you need any more information, you can go to mysutro.com. And at the top on the navigation menu is a little menu item called Partner with Sutro. That's our entire industry offering
and we provide them at wholesale to the service industry, so they don't purchase them at retail. We do have a package for the whole service entity. So there's a link on there marked wholesale. They can click sign up for a wholesale account, and they can buy 1, 10, as many as they want to buy. There's no minimums. And again, to Ravi's point, we're open to feedback. We consider ourselves the iPhone 3 looking to be the iPhone 12, and we won't get there without support from industry professionals like your listeners as well as yourself, Dave.
Nice. I guess the last question I have is warranty and what happens if something goes wrong?
Yeah, currently, as we're rolling this out, we want to work with our partners initially, and so warranty right now is if things do go wrong, just let us know. More often than not, we'll basically help you get the device replaced, as we want to make sure that you're successful. In the future, we will have a little bit more robust and stringent warranty plans, but right now we just want to make sure that everybody around us is happy and things are working the way that they should.
And you can see the product's very well made, Dave. It's very heavy. It's not like some of the plastic products out there. This product was built to withstand the environment that it's in. And we'll stand behind you. Again, if things happen, unless we had somebody whose dog ate the top of the monitor, we still work with them to replace it. But it was a true dog ate my homework scenario, but you still covered it as well.
Yeah.
All right.
This is fantastic. I had no idea, because I don't, this is not my world. I don't live in this world every single day. I rely on Dave to really bring the great stuff to us and the technology. And this is fantastic. I see it as being very valuable.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of potential for helping pool pros do a better job.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. We truly appreciate it. Again, this is really valuable information for the pool pros, and we certainly hope that you guys become partners and go out to mysutro.com and learn more, or connect with Jim Conti. If you want to talk from a sales perspective, please do that. Thanks so much, guys, for coming on. We appreciate it.
And if anybody's in Cancun right now, they can come see me live.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Get me. That's it. I'll take the meetings right here in the beach.
As it should be.
Absolutely. I got one floating in the Pacific right now. Gulf, not the Pacific. Oops.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye now.
Bye.
A new voice in the industry, a resource for all, education for you. This is Pool Pro Podcast. Build relationships and share important news as we get ready for our next backyard adventure. Pool Pro Podcast. Backyard adventures are better together. Please take a moment to share, like, and review our content with all of those that would be interested.